And good evening. Welcome to our University of Dubuque football show with head coach Ryan Myeri joining us here on the University of Dubuque campus as we're high atop Chalmers Field in the President's Box. You can see the Chalmers Field in the background. Just been a beautiful, beautiful 1 or 2 weeks of weather here. Going to get a little bit hotter in Dubuque this week, but boy, all in all, it's just been a beautiful run of weather we've been experiencing. And the Spartans opened up their season on Friday night under the lights as they took on Aurora University, who's ranked number 14 in this week's D3 football poll, and fell 33-21. Here and there, plays could have went either way. The result might have been different, but the result is a loss, 33-21. UD jumped out 14-3 in the first quarter, but Aurora managed to get back into it, tied it up at halftime, and we'll break it down a little bit right now as we bring in head coach Ryan Myeri. And Coach, thanks for coming up for your program again here this evening. Tough loss, but you start prepping for the next game.
Yeah, definitely. And the first thing I'll say is I'm just proud of, one, our student athletes and then our coaching staff. I believe that we worked really well together and our guys battled hard, and it's a tough loss. Anytime you lose, it's never easy, and you're going to have some disappointment and some sadness when you invest a lot. But our guys, they never quit, and that was exciting to see.
And some encouraging things, obviously, that you saw, and we'll talk about that throughout the course of your time on the program here this evening over our half hour. But like we mentioned, win or loss, encouraging performances, many regards against a talented team. Just general thoughts in that regard before we break down the game a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, their team is very talented. There's a reason why they're a top 25 team, and they're coached really well. They didn't make many mistakes, and they forced us into some mistakes. And I think our defense played lights out for the better part of that game. They were put in some tough situations, from our offense. And I put all of that on me, really. So at the end of the day, I could have done a better job and put us in some better situations, and that would have helped us out on both sides of the ball. But for the most part, our defense, man, those guys freaking battled their butts off, and they were put on some short fields, and they gave up some yards, but they didn't give up points, and that's what matters most. So that was really exciting to see, and that Aurora offense, I think they got some playmakers all over the field. So to be able to defend all of that was not easy. So.
First quarter, boy, you couldn't have started out any better this season. First time you had the ball, took it down the field and scored. As Cameron Bryce, we talked about his explosiveness, and quarterback Ben Goltig, and you saw that right away.
Yeah, and the first couple of series, I felt like we did pretty good, and we just fizzled out. We couldn't get our feet stuck in the ground enough. We were just sputtering, and we had a number of 3-and-outs in a row, and that put us. That hurts our defense. When we're a fast-paced offense, you're going 3-and-out a bunch. They're on the field a ton of time, and we needed to shorten that game a little bit, keep ourselves on the field, make some better decisions in play calling, and then also just when we're on the field, when we have plays to make, we got to make those plays. So, and again, that falls back on me as the one lead in all of that.
You had a 14-3 lead after a couple of first quarter touchdowns. Aurora scored another field goal, and then things got tied up as you got to halftime. Tough break. A few turnovers hurt you through the game, and I think one unfortunate one happened before halftime and turned into a touchdown.
Yeah, that drive, I think, was a critical moment in the game because we had a chance. They got momentum back, tied the game up, and then we have an opportunity to go down and score and actually steal a possession if we score there, now we go back up 21-14, and we're going to get the ball at the half. And you have a chance to really separate. And, yeah, we end up throwing a pick and kind of screwed us over. And then we almost gave them an opportunity to go back down the field because they had some time to do some things. And, it was just poor management by myself in that situation, and just got to learn from it.
Football is such a game of momentum, just like a lot of sports. And could you feel the momentum swing a little bit there? And sometimes you try to figure out how to switch it back your way. But was that a big key as you went into halftime?
Yeah, interestingly, I felt like our defense never did. I could feel our offense kind of tightening up, but defensively they just kept going out there. I think they were enjoying just being on the field and playing, and I think that's why they were making a lot of plays. They weren't so worried about offense ain't they're not doing this or not executing. They were just more focused on themselves. So in one sense you could feel it the tightness, and then the other sense you could feel this looseness, and which was unique for me because usually I'm just dealing with one side of the ball. but like kind of to be involved with both and seeing those play out. I thought our defense responded really well.
Aurora put up back-to-back or two scores, I should say, in the third quarter, made it a 27-14 game. But to your team's credit, like you said, your defense kept you in the ball game, and you battled through, and it was a one-score game, till the very end.
Yeah, and it was. We had critical turnovers. We threw 3 interceptions, and one of them was a pick six that kind of stretched the game out. It was a 6-point game there. We had plenty of time on the clock when we got it, and we, had a ball tipped at the line of scrimmage, throwing some quick game, and a guy made a good play, and, that was that. But, yeah, I was really proud of our guys, the way that they battled and finished. It's not easy to do when you feel like you're kind of sputtering, but they found a way to still kind of battle through that and have some resiliency and finish the game the best that they could. So, we gave ourselves a chance at the end, and when you're playing a good football team, if you can do that, hopefully you can find yourself on the winning side of it.
Going back to after you scored a couple of times, I think I counted up 8 possessions without a score. A number of those were 3 and outs. Other than maybe your lack of execution, what was Aurora able to adjust to, and what were they able to do differently to slow you down a little bit?
Honestly, I don't know if it was an adjustment on their end or lack of execution on ours, and a couple of calls that I would take back if I could. But I feel like we just didn't execute the way that we're capable of and what we were doing earlier in the game. We just missed some opportunities and made some poor choices. So we just got to kind of get back to what we're doing and focus on us, and we'll be in good shape.
Breaking down some of the stats as you look at it, Aurora 212 yards rushing, 131 for Dubuque, 313 yards passing for the Aurora Spartans, 294 for the Spartans on 31 of 53. And you mentioned those 3 picks, but you had 2 interceptions yourself to take away, so your defense did great there. Total offense 525 for Aurora, 425 for the University of Dubuque. And as you listen to those numbers and break those down, you feel like, you did some great things offensively, just as we talked about times where you weren't able to have consistency.
Yeah, you just said we had 8 drives in a row where we didn't do much, and at least 5 of those were probably 3 and outs, and we still had 400-something yards of offense. And, you think if you capitalize on just those series alone, even 2 of them, now you're doing – those numbers look even different, right? And, we were 2 of 4, I believe, in the red zone. Our goal is to be 80% plus touchdowns when we're in those areas, and we were 2 for 4. 50% ain't going to cut it, especially when you're playing a top-tier team. So, you convert at least 1 more of those, and now we're already in a different game. So that was a big missed opportunities for us. We stalled out on 4 downs. There was a situation there I probably should have called timeout. I'm kicking myself for that one to kind of get our guys a blow. Our guys are still adapting to this new style of play, and we had a long series, so it would have been a good use of a timeout. Sometimes you overthink that, like, oh, we need to save these, but at the same time, that was a critical play on 4th down, and, we just threw one up and didn't get anything out of it. So, those were some critical plays in there for us.
I guess a stat I had circled was 3rd down conversions. Aurora was pretty good, 11 of 21, so they were able to convert some 3rd down and maybe keep the ball out of your hands for a little bit there. But you were 7 of 17. Talk about the importance of, both of those numbers.
Yeah, being over 40% on 3rd down is usually fairly good. If you're at that 50%, that's like pretty elite. Like you're in the tops of the country, and that's what we're always striving for. So we missed a couple opportunities when we were in manageable positions on 3rd down. We had a couple that were longer, so those are harder to convert. But we had a number that were like 3rd and 5, and we end up getting a 4th and 2 or 4th and 1. And you gotta be able to convert in those situations. Their offense did a really good job of that. There was sometimes defensively, like we handed some to them, like through penalties and whatnot, and we had some great stops. And we had a 4th down, they come up and we jump outside. It gives them a 1st down. That gives them 3 points. That would have kept them out of a field goal. So we just had some disciplinary things that we got to clean up. But, overall, most of the time we were playing hard, and, between penalties and 3rd downs, like if we clean those up and then the turnovers, we're going to be, maybe this conversation is a little different.
It was 27-14, like we mentioned, going to the 4th quarter, so your team down by 2 scores. Talk about that drive, where you started the 4th quarter scoring. 13 plays, 82 yards. I mean, that may have been the best drive of the night, what you're looking for.
Yeah, we just kind of pieced things together, and then once that's the biggest thing with this offense is if you can get into rhythm, you need that first down. And once you get in a rhythm, it's just like it's kind of like a tidal wave. It just keeps coming and going, and it's the opponent's tough for them to kind of breathe at that point. So, and when you have a bunch of 3 and outs, it's hard to get that rhythm, and you can't really get that feel in the game for the defense to feel like, oh my gosh, we're just getting run over right now. So, that was a critical drive. It gave us a chance. Actually, you could, when you talked about momentum before, you kind of feel that momentum, kind of like the life came back to the sideline. And like, oh, we're in this thing. We're going to get the ball back, and we're going to do that again. And really thought that was going to happen.
Yeah, and you did have the ball a couple of more times with a crack at it, but unfortunate interception toward the end gave them the ball back, and they put on that score that made it a 2-score game.
Yep. Yeah, that was it was unfortunate. We were trying to throw a quick game there, try to get the ball out to the flat quick, and the defensive end made a good play, and then the corner made an even better play. Like, it was an impressive play that he got to the ball because of the way that it was deflected. We should have gone the other side of the field actually with the throw, but I mean, that's something to learn from and move on from.
33-21 was the final, and we talked about focusing on the positives as you move forward. What were you really happy with as you broke down this game that you can take advantage of moving forward?
Yeah, when we talked last week, I'd been thinking a lot about that, and I feel like our guys battled really hard. They're trying to live out the things that we're instilling in them. They never quit on each other. They're, for the most part, like on the sidelines, like you didn't really hear any chatter one way or the other of like bickering or anything like that. People were just ready to go back to work and do their assignment and play their 1/11th to the best of their ability. So it was encouraging to see that. Even afterwards, after the game, like guys trying to be optimistic, like they were upset that they lost that we lost the football game, and not just like, oh, let's go have some fun now and hang out or whatever. Like they were pretty upset and beat up about it, and that lets me know like they're very invested, and so I know that they're ready to come back and work, and that's exciting to see. And we had just a lot of guys like looking after each other, cleaning up the locker rooms afterwards and stuff, hanging around to clean things up and not just like sulking or anything like that, So I believe that they'll be ready and they'll be focused, and they're going to have a great attitude this week and find a way to get better and keep improving. And so, yeah, there was a lot of optimism like leaving the football field because, actually my son reminded me of this when I was at home on Saturday morning, and he's like, because I'm pretty beat up. I don't take losses very good. Many people don't, but I'm like ultra hard on myself. So he was like, well, you have to look at it this way. At least it wasn't like a talent discrepancy. It was mistakes, and mistakes can be fixed. If it was a talent thing, like we'd be in trouble because we can't fix that right now. Like that would be a whole nother year. So that's great perspective.
Yeah.
And, that was cool that he was able to share that.
Yeah, no kidding.
And, so it allows us, like let's focus on the things that we can get better at, because there's those things we fix. That game's different, and so that's exciting.
Sounds like he might have a future as a football coach someday.
Maybe, or like a life coach or something like that. So, yeah.
Or to consult coaches after losses. Yeah, consult them.
The optimism guy or something.
Well, it's even though it turned into a loss, great to get the season started under the lights here at Chalmers Field. Just I'm sure an electric atmosphere for the crowd that was there, and you would like to have your debut as a win, but the potential's here for a great thing here at the University of Dubuque.
Yeah, it was an awesome turnout, awesome atmosphere, food trucks and local businesses, and the crowd turned out. I mean, it was a beautiful night. Outside of the outcome, everything was amazing. Like the support's been amazing. Even like people coming down after the game were just like super positive and encouraging, and I'm excited to see what's to come down the road. So. I couldn't ask for better from that standpoint. Like, really I just feel for the kids too, like all the work that goes in, and, they have this great support and turnout, and then it didn't turn out the way, you want it to. And so, but it was, you couldn't ask for a better setup.
We're talking with Ryan Myeri on Monday night, and game number 2 for the University of Dubuque Spartans is straight ahead coming up this Saturday, as they'll be back to playing on Saturdays with a Saturday night game across the bridge and going over to Wisconsin-Platteville. And we're going to talk about that matchup with the Pioneers when we return to the UD Football Show with head coach Ryan Myeri. Back in just a moment. And we're back on this Monday evening on the UD Football Show with head coach Ryan Myeri. And tonight we're going to debut our assistant segment. And the first one out of the gate is going to be Jordan Edwards, the wide receiver coach. We're going to get a chance to chat with Jordan in our next segment here as he's waiting in the on-deck circle over here after Coach Myeri takes the headphones off. And Coach, we're going to talk about your opponent coming up here, the University of Wisconsin-Platteville Pioneers, the Battle of the Bridge. It's really been a series that's sort of been off and on, 8-16-2. That's what the matchup is. I was looking in the record book, and like I said, it's sort of been an on and off series. But UD's last win in this series, 1949. So there's something. Wow. There's something to shoot for right there. And It's been 14 straight. Platteville's always got a outstanding team, and you know, it's a great program out of that Wisconsin League and the WIAC.
Yeah, they're a very good program. You know, they had a lights-out win their first game Saturday night against Lakeland, which is my alma mater. So that didn't feel very good from that standpoint. But no, they got a great staff over there. We know their staff pretty well. They're a bunch of great guys, and their program's really good. You know, they have had a lot of success over the years, and you know, this year is probably going to be no different for them. You know, they got a lot of guys returning. Their offense is incredibly talented. They got a quarterback that can make about every throw. He's athletic. He can extend plays. The receiving core, it's just going to keep getting better and better. You know, like Aurora's receiving core was really good, and this one's going to be no different. And they're just very talented on the offensive side, a lot of skill. And then defensively, you know, they're going to be replacing a lot of guys from last year. So, you know, some of their front seven is going to be new faces, and even on the back end. But they still got a talented corner that's coming back. He's been a couple-year starter, great athlete. They're a very physical football team, put together, run really well. I think they might not be as big as last year, but they're probably faster than last year from what it looks like on film at least, and which is sometimes hard to judge when you're watching film, but they definitely look like they can definitely fly around to the football, and they're going to bring it.
You mentioned on the defensive side of the ball, and I was going to mention that's where they really had to put some new pieces in. They lost an All-American player on that squad, and so, you know, when you do that, you got some big shoes to fill. And so, what I guess it's maybe hard to tell after that first game that you watch, but what have you seen from them defensively?
It's pretty similar to last year. They're going to mix it up between like a 4-man and a 3-man front, depending on our formations and some personnel stuff that we might do. They'll try to match that. At least they did. They showed that last year. You know, Lakeland plays mostly spread and like 10 personnel formations, so like trips and doubles and empty. So it's hard to know like how they might line up this year to those formations. So you kind of just have to play off of what you believe that they'll do. But there'll be a mixture of that. They'll bring some pressures. Seem to be playing a lot more one high this year than they maybe did last year. So yeah, they like to disguise their coverages, mix things up, try to confuse things for the quarterbacks, and And they got some great athletes on the back end to do some of those things. So, yeah, they're going to be pretty diverse, a little bit more diverse than what we just saw this past week.
Mm-hmm. Offensively, give us a little scouting report on what you're expecting from the Pioneers there.
I think in some ways it'll be similar to what we just saw. Like, I think everything goes through their skill guys. You know, a lot of the stuff is going to go through their wide receivers. They do really good with their screen game, getting the ball on the perimeter, and then they start to build off of that. So I would expect to see a lot of the ball getting sprayed out quick to their guys and then taking shots.
Mm-hmm. Another night game over at Platteville, and so they're excited about having a couple of. That's the first night game they played in a while over there last week when they took on Lakeland. So playing another one. I know this was like originally a 1 o'clock kickoff, wasn't it? But they decided they wanted to turn it into a night game.
Yeah, like probably like beginning of August or something like that. It had to be like end of July, beginning of August, and we were set for 1 o'clock, and they wanted to move to 7. I didn't really ask why. I was just like, all right, like I guess this is what we're doing. So we talked it out and got it worked out, and you know, we just came off a night game too. They're coming off a night game, so in some ways, like keeps you in a rhythm. So we just got to use that to our advantage.
Mm-hmm. We talked a little bit about their defense, but I guess one of the stats that really jumped out at you when you looked at their game against Platteville is Platteville held them to minus 27 yards rushing, and so you look at that, and I guess we didn't ask about how you felt about your run game on Friday night.
Yeah, we could have been better. I think I got away from the run too quick. That's kind of an Achilles heel of mine, is sticking with the run game. So, and we run a lot of RPOs, so some of those got thrown. We had runs called and the ball got thrown out because of the looks that we were getting. So, I believe in our run game. I feel like we have some good stuff. We actually hit a couple big runs in the game. And that's why I kind of like leaving, you're kind of kicking yourself like, I could have went to that a little bit more or earlier, more often. And that also may have kept us on the field longer, and you don't have some of those stall outs that we had. Lakeland, they had a lot of sacks. That plays into your yardage for rush, and it's kind of a mismatch up front. Hopefully we can match up better, but if we can't, then we got to find other ways to run the ball in creative ways. So
It's only Monday, but how do you feel health-wise about your team going into the game on Saturday?
I feel really good. We've been very fortunate, to stay relatively healthy through all of fall camp, and we're even getting some guys back that we kind of talked about this last week. They kind of were out because of injuries from last season, so we're getting some of those guys back, which is exciting. So now I feel like we're kind of getting back to like a full strength of what we could be.
Any final thoughts before we let you go here as you're thinking about Wisconsin-Platteville? I know you'd like to see a lot of UD blue over there in the stands.
Yeah, I'd love to match what they're going to bring and try to make it a home game for both of us. It's not very far traveling, and hopefully we can get the support that we just got this past Friday on the road. That'd be awesome. And, they got a great setup there. I think it's a great environment. So it should be an exciting game for both sides, and hopefully we can have people there to support that, and we're appreciative of that anytime that can happen.
If you're not able to watch it, there will be a link available. It'll be the Wisconsin-Platteville originated broadcast, but it'll be up on the UD Spartans website, and so check that out and support the Spartans that way. But if you can make it over to Platteville, by all means, head over. Sounds like we're going to keep this weather going here, so I think Saturday night looks
beautiful.
Looks all right, yeah. Well, Coach, we'll let you go. We're anxious to interview our first assistant for the season. Tell us about who you brought here tonight a little bit before we take a break and bring him in.
Yeah, so we have Jordan Edwards. He's our wide receiver coach and works with our special teams as well. So I've come to know Coach Edwards through actually our Lakeland connection. So he worked with Lakeland's head coach, Colin Bruton, who I've worked for, and we're pretty good friends. And so as we were building this staff back in the late winter, early spring, Jordan's name was brought up a number of times, and we had an opportunity to interview him a couple times through that process, and he fits what we're looking for. He's got a lot of energy, great connector with the players, builds really good relationships, and that's sometimes not an easy thing to do. So he does a really good job with that, and then also just like creating opportunities for guys to come over that aren't even in his position group, which is unique too. Like sometimes when you're a position coach, you kind of just set your focal point on your guys, and he's meeting with D linemen today even, so I think that's pretty cool when you can have like that type of open door policy and then relationship with the guys, and people kind of like gravitate towards you in that way. So he's been really good for us and just building the culture and climate that we want here.
Coach Myrie, thanks for your time. We'll look forward to meeting Coach Edwards here in just a moment, and good luck to the Spartans as you head across the bridge to take on the Platteville Pioneers on Saturday night.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. We'll come back with the final segment of our UD football show here for this Monday night. And we'll bring in Coach Edwards and talk with him about the season so far. And we'll return with that in just a moment. This is the UD football show. University of Dubuque football show here on YouTube is where we're broadcasting this evening, and we've got our assistant spotlight right now, Jordan Edwards, the wide receivers coach, his primary responsibility. He joins us right now. Jordan, it's great that you came up here to talk with us tonight a little bit about the season.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. Excited times here in Dubuque, so.
Yeah, well, this is your first season here at the University of Dubuque, and it sounds like you have a connection with Coach Myrie, and he was able to convince you to come. What drew you to the University of Dubuque program?
I'll say it was pretty easy to convince me to come here. Also, working with Coach Myrie, just knowing some of the people that he's worked with, like he said, mutual connections. And then also the defensive coordinator was also the DC when I was also a GA at Lakeland. So being able to come back and work with both of those guys, and it already felt like I worked with Ryan just from the past previous coaches that we have connections with. So it made this transition super easy. So,
were you a former wide receiver in college? And some players don't coach the position that they play, but were you a former wide receiver?
So I was really a running back most part of the times, but I always felt like I could play receiver, and I got put in some receiver packages at times when we go empty. So no, I was really primarily a running back for the most part. So,
well, one thing that had to attract you to this University of Dubuque job is the vast array of talent that you've got at wide receiver. Sort of talk about your group.
Yeah, so my group is special, and I mean that in on the field, off the field. Really great leadership at the top, and then from the bottom, a very young, talented group that is coming along every week. That is going to be able to compete for a long time in the ARC here coming soon. So,
Coach Myrie mentioned that you're a guy that is a relationship builder with players. What's the key to that? How do you approach that?
So originally, when I got into football, I worked as a recruiting assistant at my college. So I didn't really think I wanted to be a coach at first. I actually got injured my senior year of college, so I got into coaching. Along with recruiting. So I always thought like I wanted to be a part of recruiting, in which you got to get to know people. But then once I got like my feet in it for coaching, it just felt like it was a perfect match for me. So,
what do you enjoy most about coaching? Is it those relationships, or what really excites you about being a coach?
Yeah, I would say the relationships, and I still get those jitters even on those game days myself, as a coach, even as I was as a player. But the relationships I build, not only with the players, but the coaches families, just throughout the community it's huge. And I'm a big family person myself, so I love it. So that's why I kind of hang my hat on the relationships.
Seems like this group very talented, but you got to feel like they've got a pretty high ceiling for what they could be this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was warned about that when I first got here, that this group was super talented. And I've been around other talented group, but this one matches it for sure. Just from, again, on the field and off the field, they're very talented on the field, but then they're really good human beings off the field. So it's really made my job easy and less stressful. So.
So after a game, what are you grading when you're looking at your receivers? Tell us a little bit about that process, how that works.
Yeah, so 3 things we hang our hat on is alignment, assignment, and execution. Did you get a line right? Do you know what your assignment is, and did you execute it at a high level? So guys that get in the game will get those game reports, but also the guys that are sitting on the sideline watching, just so they can kind of take more mental reps as they're watching film. Just because when you're in the game or watching the game, you usually don't think too much about it from that perspective. But after the fact, these guys will blow up my phone after the game immediately. Like, we played at 6 o'clock, so we got out probably around like 9:30, 10 o'clock, and my phone couldn't stop buzzing because they were just so eager to already get the film updates and notes and just kind of learn from that game.
As we were talking with Coach Myeri, it's always tough to start the season with a loss, but then you put it in perspective and you look at what the possibilities are for this team and accentuate the positives, if you will, going forward.
Yeah, so I mean, I think Cameron Bryce is a special player, and again, I think everyone around the conference and this coaching staff knows that. But also, we have other guys that are just as talented, and we just got to continue to find ways to get them the ball and have them execute.
Jordan, it's been great having you on the program. Anything else you wanted to add about the UD Spartan football program from your perspective before we turn you loose here on this Monday night?
It's a special place. It's an exciting time to be here, and I'm blessed to be a part of this staff and this community, this school, this program, so it's exciting.
Coach Edwards, we're looking forward to watching the Spartans through the rest of the season, and we'll keep an eye on that wide receiver group and watch their progress throughout the year. And who knows, maybe we'll talk again down the road. But I appreciate your time, and thanks for coming in.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right. Jordan Edwards, one of the assistants on head coach Ryan Myeri's staff. This is the University of Dubuque football show coming up on Saturday night. It'll be football, and you can view the game on udspartans.com, and then we'll be back here on Monday night of next week, again at 6 o'clock, to break down the game and then look toward the American Rivers Conference opener that will be straight ahead. So we'll do that next week. Thanks for tuning in this evening for the University of Dubuque football show. I'm Tim Larry.